Okay, let's just try to picture this. You are at the absolute top of your game in, a pretty violent profession.
Right.
You're performing in front of thousands of people every single night, and your job is to be the bad guy, the villain. People are literally throwing garbage at you.
And then you walk through the curtain back to the locker room.
Exactly. And the toughest guy in that room, a guy like Stone Cold Steve Austin, he looks the lineup for the night, sees he's wrestling you, and breathes a sigh of relief. He actually called wrestling you a night off.
It's such a paradox, isn't it? Because in pro wrestling, especially back in the 80s and 90s, you think of, grit and pain and just pure intensity. The last thing you want is a night off. Unless the person you're in there with is such a complete master of their craft that, 100%, that you are safe.
That's it. It means you're with a pro, a real artist. And that is exactly what we're talking about today. We are doing a deep dive into the life and career of beautiful Bobby Eaton.
A man who was very often the glue holding entire wrestling promotions together. So we've gone through his biography, old matches, interviews with his peers.
Yeah.
And our mission today is really to figure out how this quiet kid from Huntsville, Alabama, became maybe the most decorated tag team specialist in history, the engine of the Midnight Express, and, well, by all accounts, the nicest guy in a very cutthroat business.
And when we say nicest, we mean it. We'll get to the suitcase story later, and you're going to want to hear the suitcase story. But I'm just so excited because the stories themselves are wild, tarring and feathering people.
Pile drivers on concrete.
A feud that lasted for 3 decades. It's just unbelievable stuff.
But underneath all that chaos is this just a masterclass in technical precision. Eaton's whole career is like a blueprint for how to have longevity and, frankly, emotional intelligence in a really tough workplace.
Okay, so let's start at the beginning. Before he was beautiful Bobby, he was just a kid from Huntsville, Alabama, and he got hooked young, like really young.
Oh, incredibly young. We're talking about the early 1970s, and the wrestling business was, well, it was a carnival. It was gritty. It was regional.
Not the big corporate machine it is today.
Not at all. And he's just a kid, but his real education is happening at the local arena. The source material says he started getting involved when he was just 13.
13. I think I was playing video games at 13. He's setting up wrestling rings.
He was on the ring crew. And that is a hard, thankless job. You're hauling steel, you're tightening ropes. It just shows this dedication right from the start. He was a fan of NWA Mid-America, run by a guy named Nick Goulas, and just by being there, being helpful, he gets noticed.
He gets trained.
By a veteran, Tojo Yamamoto. And get this, he makes his debut in May of 1976. He's only 17 years old.
And the story of his debut is just classic old-school wrestling. He wasn't even booked to wrestle, was he?
Nope, he was a last-minute substitute. A wrestler named Bearcat Wright no-showed, and they needed someone to fill in. Bobby steps up.
He lost, I assume.
Oh, yeah, he lost. But he was in the ring, and that becomes the pattern of his career, He's reliable. He's the guy who steps in when you need him.
So he's 17.
Yeah.
Who starts to really notice his talent?
The promoter, Nick Goulas, he sees the raw athleticism and just moves him up the card. It wasn't long before he was winning tag team titles, but there's this one moment in 1979 that really makes him a star, and it involves a move that was considered, well, career-ending back then.
The pile driver.
The pile driver, yeah. Today, you see him all the time. But in 1979, in that territory, the move was banned.
Banned, like, for the story, or for real?
In the story, yeah. In kayfabe. It was treated like this incredibly dangerous, illegal move that could paralyze you. It had real weight.
So he's in a feud with a guy named Chris Colt.
Right. And to get the story over, to show how much they hate each other, Colt gives Eaton a pile driver on the concrete floor outside the ring.
Ouch. I mean, even if you know what you're doing, that's concrete.
It looked absolutely brutal. The story was that Eaton was seriously hurt, maybe paralyzed. Colt gets suspended to sell it. But of course, Eaton was fine because he was so good, and when he comes back for revenge and beats Colt, it makes him the biggest face, the biggest good guy in the whole territory.
It's so funny because when I think of Bobby Eaton, I think of him as a heel, a bad guy.
And that's his versatility. He did turn heel later that year, but the fans were actually surprised. They didn't want to boo him. It wasn't until he went to Memphis, to the CWA, that he really found that villainous side.
Ah, Memphis. Jerry Jarrett's territory. This is where the tag team magic really starts, right? He teams with Sweet Brown Sugar.
As the New Wave. And they were great. They won the tag titles 3 times. But the most important thing that happened in Memphis might be who he was wrestling against.
Who was that?
A guy named Stan Lane.
Oh, wow. Foreshadowing.
Major foreshadowing. But first, Eaton heads to Mid-South Wrestling, and this is where wrestling history is made.
The Midnight Express.
The defining chapter. The name had been used before, but when Bobby Eaton and Dennis Condrey get put together under the management of a young, loudmouth manager named Jim Cornette, it was just lightning in a bottle.
And this is where he gets the nickname Beautiful Bobby.
Yeah, and it was a total joke. It was a play on Alabama the Beautiful. But Bobby, I mean, he looked like a regular guy with a mullet. He wasn't some pretty boy. But the name just worked with their arrogant characters.
And they kick off probably the greatest tag team rivalry of all time against the Rock and Roll Express.
It's hard to even describe how huge this was. It was perfect storytelling. You had the rock and rolls with the hair and the bandanas and the screaming teenage girl fans. And then you had the Midnights with their suits and their tennis rackets, just there to ruin the party.
And the sources say that feud went on for 3 decades.
3 decades. They wrestled in Mid-South, then took it national in Jim Crockett Promotions, and they were still wrestling each other on independent shows in the 2000s.
They must have known each other's every move.
Better than they knew their own. And they did some truly awful things to get the fans to hate them.
You have to mention the tar and feathering.
Oh, the Magnum TA incident.
Yes, they tarred and feathered him in the middle of the ring.
Well, it was probably molasses or something, but it looked just horrible on TV. It was humiliating. And that's what a great villain does. It's not enough to win. You have to humiliate the hero. That moment made them the top villains in the business.
But then a big change happens. Dennis Condrey leaves the team. And usually that's the end of a group, right?
Usually, yeah. But this is where you see Eaton's adaptability. In 1987, sweet Stan Lane, the guy from Memphis, replaces Condrey. And for a lot of people, this version of the Midnight Express was even better.
Why? What was different?
Lane was just faster, more athletic. He had a martial arts background. The team became less about brawling and more about this high-speed precision attack. They were so smooth.
And the work was just on another level. I love this quote from Missy Hyatt. She said the Midnight Express could go 45 minutes and never repeat a move.
Think about that. The memory, the creativity, it's like jazz. They basically invented modern tag team psychology.
Okay, let's break that down. What does tag team psychology really mean?
It means using the rules to tell a story. They perfected the quick tag, where they'd be in and out every few seconds, staying fresh while wearing the other guy down.
And isolating the opponent.
Exactly. Cutting the ring in half, they'd keep the good guy in their corner, away from his partner, and the crowd is just begging for him to make the tag. Modern teams are still just doing variations of what the Midnight Express did. Bobby Eaton literally wrote the book on it.
But the team breaks up in 1990. Eaton stays in WCW, but now he's a singles wrestler. That has to be a tough spot for a guy known for being in a team.
It's a huge challenge. There's a fear you'll just get lost in the shuffle, especially because Bobby wasn't, a big talker. He was quiet. He let his work speak for him.
But he didn't just fade away.
No, he didn't. 1991 becomes this huge turning point. He turns back into a good guy, and at Super Bowl Igo, he beats Arn Anderson for the World Television Championship.
Beating Arn Anderson for a title is a huge stamp of approval.
The biggest. It gave him immediate credibility. But the real highlight, for me, is his match against Ric Flair at a Clash of the Champions.
Against the world champion.
A 2 out of 3 falls match. Now, Eaton lost the match 2 falls to 1, but he pinned Ric Flair in that first fall.
Row.
In 1991, pinning the world champion on national TV, even in a loss, was a massive deal. It proved he belonged in the main event.
But he doesn't stay a singles guy for long. He gets pulled into one of the coolest groups ever, the Dangerous Alliance.
Paul Heyman's masterpiece. He puts together this stable with Rick Rude, Steve Austin, Arn Anderson, Larry Zbyszko, and Bobby Eaton, a killer's row of technicians.
And of course, Eaton and Anderson become the tag team for the group.
And of course, they win the titles. But the peak of that run has to be the War Games match in 1992.
War Games. 2 rings, 1 giant steel cage. Just brutal.
It's one of the few matches Dave Meltzer's ever gave 5 stars. A legit masterpiece. But the ending was brutal for Eaton.
Right, the finish. Zbyszko hits him by accident.
Yeah, with a piece of the turnbuckle, a metal rod. He was aiming for someone else, missed, and just cracked Eaton in the shoulder with it. It forced Bobby to submit, his team lost, and it was the beginning of the end for the Alliance.
So after the Alliance breaks up, he kind of bounces around for a bit before reinventing himself again in the mid-90s. And this might be my favorite version of him.
Earl Robert Eaton.
Earl Robert Eaton. He teams with Lord Stephen Regal, who's this prim and proper British aristocrat. And the whole gimmick is that Regal is trying to teach this guy from Alabama how to be sophisticated.
The training vignettes were comedy gold. Regal trying to teach him how to use the right fork or how to speak the Queen's English. It just showed Eaton had this incredible comedic timing.
He even renamed his moves. The Alabama Jam leg drop became the Tower of London.
Right, but even in a comedy role, the in-ring work never, ever slipped. It was still flawless.
Which brings us back full circle to that night off idea. What was it about his work that made him so safe, so precise?
It's about the illusion of impact. He knew exactly how to make a punch or a slam look like it killed you, but he was actually absorbing all the impact himself. His body control was it was next level. He was completely selfless in the ring. He protected his partner above all else.
And that selflessness carried over backstage? This is where we get to who he was as a person.
Yeah. I mean, he played a bad guy most of his career, but he was universally beloved.
Yeah.
Mick Foley called him the absolute nicest person in the entire business. He said you could never pay for a meal if Bobby was around.
But the suitcase story is the one that gets me.
The second suitcase?
Tell everyone about the suitcase.
Okay, so multiple people have confirmed this. Bobby Eaton would travel with an extra suitcase, not for his gear, but one filled with extra toiletries, socks, toothpaste, deodorant, pain relievers, all of it.
Why?
Just in case one of the other guys forgot something. If you're on the road exhausted and you realize you left your tooth roll at the last hotel, here comes Bobby Eaton to save the day.
That is it's incredible. In a business famous for egos and selfishness, he's packing extra socks for everybody else.
That was his character, a
Yeah.
total giver. And it was the same in his family life. He married Donna Dundee.
Whose dad was Bill Dundee, a famous wrestler and booker.
And Bill had a strict rule. His daughter was not allowed to date wrestlers. He knew the lifestyle. So Bobby and Donna had to date in secret.
Until they got caught.
Until they got caught. But when Bill found out it was Bobby Eaton, he just said, oh, it's him. Okay, that's fine.
Because it was Bobby.
Because it was Bobby. He knew he was a good man. And they were married for decades, had kids, one of whom became a wrestler.
It's a great story. But a 40-year career takes a toll on the body.
It does. Gravity always wins. He had a lot of health problems later in life, heart issues. He had a pacemaker put in. The business is just brutal on your body over time.
And 2021 was just a horrible, tragic year for his family.
Absolutely heartbreaking. His wife, Donna, passed away in June of that year.
Mm.
And then just a little over a month later, in August, Bobby passed away in his sleep. He was 62.
It's just so sad. He went so soon after she did.
It really felt like he couldn't go on without her. But the outpouring from the wrestling world was just immense. All the legends, Arn Anderson, Jim Cornette, Stan Lane, they all came to pay their respects.
So as we wrap this up, what is the big takeaway here? This is a guy who wasn't the biggest, wasn't the best on the microphone, but is a Hall of Famer. What's his legacy?
I think his legacy redefines what value is. We always focus on the star, the person with their name on the marquee, but Bobby Eaton was the mechanic. He was the infrastructure.
The guy that makes the whole machine run.
Exactly. You can't have your main event stars without the Bobby Eatons of the world. The guys who can have a great match with anyone, make them look like $1 million and make sure everyone goes home in one piece. The industry doesn't exist without them.
So the lesson here is that true mastery makes the difficult look easy. And true character is, what you do when no one's watching. Like packing an extra suitcase full of socks for your friends.
Beautiful Bobby Eaton. A master in the ring and just a good man outside of it.
It does make you wonder, though.
What's that?
Well, I guess the final thought for you to chew on is this. In modern entertainment, not just wrestling, but everywhere, we're so obsessed with the high spot. The huge, dangerous stunt that goes viral. Have we maybe lost our appreciation for the Bobby Eatons? For the artists who value precision, safety, and making their partners look good over just getting that one big moment of shock value?
That's a great question, because when you look at his career, it was the quiet consistency that built the legend, not the risk.
Something to think about. Rest in peace, beautiful Bobby. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive, everyone. We'll see you in the next one.